I completed this tattoo 2 years ago, but I never share it. But I'll tell you why at the end of the video. The client wanted to tattoo on his arm the story of the Salomé. He was so fascinated by Oscar Wilde's Salomé that he wanted to tattoo that. And it was pretty easy because anyway, I never read that book, but anyway, I know the story because of course it's part of the New Testament and the history just before Jesus and so on. So I think everybody knows the story about Salome. She was, I think, 16, and the King Herod was so fascinated, attracted by her, and he asked her to dance for him, and she asked that if he wanted to see her dancing, he asked for the head of the Baptist, the prophet. And so he agreed, and so he captured the Baptist, cut off his head, and that's the story. And so she dances for the king. And behind that what's explained me the client, there was the mother, because I don't remember exactly. Anyway, the Baptist was very critic about the life of the mother. She had some lovers outside the marriage and whatever, I don't remember. And so the idea that I had, and here you can see I used some paintings to see the jewelry, because of course there are no pictures of that period. We are talking about 2,000 years ago. So I watched a few paintings just to have an idea about the jewelry that she could wear. And in this case, I'm working on the veil, and because the hand was so small on the tattoo, I decided to hide them behind the veil, and I used the veils. Also, here you can see I use as a reference something, because of course the drapery is better done if you have some references. And so I hid them hided the end behind the veils. And I don't remember what I was talking about. Yeah, the story about Salome anyway. And so I decided to use the main picture for me is on the arm and the shoulder. So the mother of Salome and Salome. So she's shocked because of course she's just 16, and but because the mother pushed her to ask for the head of the Baptist, she's pretty pleased to see the head of the Baptist, but she's a young girl, so she's shocked about this scene. I mean, I would shock too if I were to see a man with his head cut off. And so I used this is the Baptist, so I divided the design in 4 main scenes. So there is the Baptist. I used a few frames from a few movies about the Baptist, just to have an idea about the environment and so on. So I decided to have the Baptist that is preaching, and then the Salome that she's dancing, and of course it's sequential, is clockwise. You can see the Baptist, she's dancing, and then there is the head cut off of the Baptist, and is the main scene is that on the upper arm. And no, it's not clockwise now that I see. And here I use the Illustrator to create the pattern for the columns, and I use the same pattern behind the King Herod and the mother. And of course I use Illustrator to make this precise pattern, because of course if I have to do, well, I could do with on paper, but it's so easy with digital stuff and so on. And for the costumes I used here a distraction. I needed something to see how the tissue fold on her boobs, so I used this picture. It was perfect for the purpose. And for all the costumes, I looked at different movies, some are from the 60s, especially from The Crown of the Queen. I found a movie, I don't remember the name, but I think it's pretty easy to find, from the 60s. And I really loved the design, the costume of the Queen, and so I decided to use that. And so I was pretty far ahead with my design already in Photoshop. And of course I used also some reference for the design, because I remember I was doing a mistake. By the way, I forgot to tell you that I did this design 3 years ago, but it was in my archive, and I never shared because well, you will find at the end of the video why I never shared this video. And so I tried also to personalize a little bit the crown of the Queen, but I didn't like it, and so I left it as I saw in that movie that I was talking about. And I always like to. The design was pretty finished already in Photoshop, but I like to finalize my drawings, especially the black and gray, in pencil on paper. And so I did it. I printed my design, and so I traced it on a new sheet of paper, and then I of course finalized my design, because it gives me pleasure to draw on paper. It's completely a different stuff. I don't know. It's something different when you can work on paper instead of on a tablet, and also the final result when you have a design to watch it is completely different. It's alive. It's not like some digital, some 0-1 code. It's something different. And I use mechanical pencil from 0.5 and 1.4. Usually I use the most the 0.7 and 0.9. I have also some mechanical eraser and stuff like that, usual stuff. Anyway, if you want information about that, just ask in the comments, and if I can, I will answer. And so there's not much to say about the work, because of course this is just me enjoying, and sometimes you see my bald head. From the movie that I told you about, I didn't use just the dress of the Queen. I took also inspiration for the background and for the drapery and stuff like that. Of course, it was interesting because when you have to place something in a historical period that you don't know, I think that the only way is to watch movies and paintings, and of course it was very, very helpful. I decided to change from the entire figure of the Baptist into I don't know how to say, a long distance image, because with the sun in the back, it was I don't know, something more religious, since he's preaching, he's a Baptist, and so it was also more interesting to see a little bit of people around him to make it clear who he was, and so on. And for the dance of Salomé, I used the drapery to cut off the design on the forearm, so we have some sort of separation between the external part and the internal part of the arm. I had to move a little bit the design when I placed it on my client, because it was smaller than I thought, and so I have to move a little bit the Queen in the back of the King. I had to move a little bit the drapery, but not a big problem anyway. And the design was cool. I'm really satisfied about this design. I love it, and I also love as it came out on the skin. In the background of the King, I thought about using the drapery from the plate where the Baptist head is, but at the end I didn't like it, so I prefer to use the same graphic that I used on the columns in negative, in contrast. On the columns, the squares are white, and on the background of the king is black, just to give it contrast. And I used the same frame on the shoulder because since 2015 I never close my tattoos with just a shade. I don't like tattoos that goes in these shades that goes to nothing. I prefer to close them with a graphical design that it closes much better than a regular shade, let's say so. And so it gives to the tattoo a sort of continuity, and I think it's cool. And then after I finished my design, I scan it, I reassemble the design on Photoshop, I adjust a little bit of contrast, I clean the design because of course the paper is not pure white, and then I apply the design on a 3D model, so it gives me an idea about the precision of the tattoo, that everything goes in the right place, and so on. Of course, the 3D model is not like my client arm, but anyway, it gives me an idea, and it gives an idea also to my client about the finished work. And I create in Illustrator a pattern to close my tattoo on the shoulder, the frame that I was talking about. And now we can talk about why so unlucky I was with this tattoo. Because at any session, of course, I retouch maybe a little bit the work that I did before, and so it goes for any session. And at the last session, of course, I had to retouch a little bit maybe the last work, the last session, but he never came back. I was sure, he said, oh, no worry, of course I will come back, but he never came back. So I took pictures, bad pictures, just for my archive, and nothing else. And so I never had the chance to do a proper shooting of this tattoo. That it was great, I love it, but apart from the lack of respect, so I left just with black and gray pictures, just to avoid a little bit of redness and so on. Unfortunately, there are people like this. He never replied to my call, and so that's it. Subscribe the channel, click the bell, and see you the next time. Bye bye.